Part 1: The Light in the Pines. I never talked about this until now. It's not because I was afraid people wouldn't believe me. That Part 1 made peace with a long time ago. It's because, truthfully, I wasn't sure I believed myself. Even now, telling this, I feel like I'm describing someone else's memory. But I know what happened. I know what I saw. It started on a Tuesday. That's the Part 1 always found strange. You'd expect something this big, this life-altering, to happen on a Friday night or during a storm or at least some dramatic backdrop. But no, just a regular Tuesday. August 3rd, 2010. I was living in northern Maine back then. Small cabin, surrounded by pine woods, half an hour from the nearest town. Quiet place. Peaceful. I liked it that way. That night I was out late working on my generator. Power had gone out again. It was just past 10 p.m., and the sky was black, moonless. All I could hear were crickets and the occasional distant howl of a coyote. I had my flashlight in my mouth, wrench in hand, trying to realign the fuel valve when something shifted. At first, it was subtle. The wind died down. The sounds of the night, completely gone. No bugs, no animals, just silence. Then I noticed the light. It started as a dull, bluish glow, far through the trees. At first, I thought maybe someone was spotlighting deer. It's not uncommon out there, though it's illegal. But this light was different. It wasn't coming from a flashlight. It didn't beam or flicker, it pulsed. Almost like it was alive. Curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed my flashlight and walked into the woods. Now, I've lived in that area for years. I know every tree, every rock, every trail. But something was off. The air felt thicker. The forest didn't look the same. The trees seemed taller, darker, as if they were watching me. The light grew brighter the closer I got. It wasn't blinding, but it was perfect. Too perfect. Not like any artificial light I'd seen. And there was this sound. A low, rhythmic hum that vibrated in my chest, not my ears. And then I saw it. A clearing I'd never seen before. Dead center was a craft. No other way to put it, it was a UFO. Oval-shaped, metallic but not like any metal I knew. It had no seams, no rivets. Just smooth, reflective surface. Floating about 10 feet above the ground, silently. I should have run. Any sane person would have. But I couldn't. It was like I was rooted to the spot. Then came the figures. 3 of them. Tall, over 7 feet. Thin. Their skin was a grayish blue, almost translucent under the light of the craft. Their heads were elongated, eyes large and black. No nose, just slits. No mouth, at least not that I could see. But I heard them. In my head. Part 2: Contact. I didn't answer. I don't even know if I could have. My body was frozen, literally. I tried to move my arms, my legs, even blink, and nothing responded. I could still breathe, though. My heartbeat was rapid and shallow, thudding in my ears like a war drum. The beings drifted closer, yes, drifted. They didn't walk. They hovered just a few inches above the ground, smooth and silent, like ghosts moving through water. The air around them shimmered, like heat rising off pavement. Then they surrounded me. 1 stood in front, 2 flanked me on either side. I couldn't tell if they had pupils, or if those massive black eyes just absorbed everything. But I felt their attention. I felt them inside my mind, like they were flipping through the pages of my thoughts, scanning memories like files in a cabinet. I don't know how I knew this, but I did. They weren't just looking at me. They were looking through me. And then, without warning, everything went white. Not a bright light. Not like a flashlight or flood lamp. This was pure whiteness. I couldn't see, hear, or feel anything. It was like being dropped into a sensory void. A complete erasure of reality. There was no sound, no temperature. Even the fear that had gripped me seconds before seemed to fade, replaced with a cold, detached stillness. Then, I woke up. I was lying on a smooth surface, cool to the touch, like polished stone or glass. Above me, a ceiling curved in an impossible arc, lined with soft glowing strips of light. The walls were seamless, like the outside of the craft. I was inside. I don't know how they moved me or if I walked. Maybe I floated. Time was completely untrustworthy by that point. I could have been out for seconds or hours. No way to tell. The room was empty except for a tall, transparent cylinder in the center. That's where they stood, those same three beings watching me. Behind the cylinder, more shapes moved in the shadows. I think there were more of them, different sizes, different forms. Not all of them looked the same. The one in front, the same one who spoke to me earlier, stepped forward again. I don't know how, but I knew it was the same one. There was something in the way it projected itself. It reached out not with hands but with thoughts. A flood of images poured into my head. Not visions exactly, memories, but not mine. Planets I'd never seen. Civilizations. Languages. A vast network of beings across galaxies. Connected not by wires or radios, but something deeper. A kind of telepathic matrix. And then Earth. Our planet. Seen from space, then zooming in: oceans, forests, cities, war zones, satellite dishes. You are not alone. The message was simple, but it came with a weight I can't describe. It wasn't just a statement, it was a knowing. Like I'd been handed the key to some hidden truth. A truth I wasn't sure I was ready to carry. They weren't here to hurt me. That part became clear. But they were here for a reason. Then something changed. The air around me shimmered again, and suddenly, the floor beneath me became transparent. I saw the forest, my cabin, the clearing. I was floating miles above the ground, but without fear, without falling. Then, I saw others, other humans, men, women, children, all standing in similar chambers, all scattered across different landscapes. Deserts, snowy plains, deep jungles. All of them looking around with the same mix of awe and terror. All of them chosen. What I saw next changed everything. The earth cracked. Not literally, not physically, but energetically, like a pulse, dark, red, and violent, rippling from the core of the planet. It was like they were showing me something we couldn't see with our eyes. Something coming. I saw oceans rise, skies turn black. I saw towers of smoke and flame, but not as prophecy, as warning. And then I understood. They weren't studying us. They were watching our clock. And it was running out. Then, nothing. Just blackness. I woke up face down in the clearing. No ship. No light. No beings. Just the cold dew of early morning on my skin, and the chirping of birds overhead. I checked my phone. 6:42 a.m. My clothes were dirty, torn in places. My watch was gone. My boots were still tied, but my left foot was swollen like it had been twisted or sprained. I stumbled back to my cabin, head spinning, stomach empty. I threw up in the sink. Part 3, The Aftermath. For a week after it happened, I didn't tell anyone. I barely left the cabin. Every time I stepped outside, I expected to see that light again. I kept scanning the treeline at night, listening for that humming sound. But the forest had gone back to normal. Birds chirping, whined through the pines. Even the generator had mysteriously started working again. But I wasn't normal. Not anymore. Something had changed in me. Started small. I'd walk into a room and forget why I was there. Not like regular forgetfulness, this was different. I'd stand completely still for minutes at a time, trying to remember basic things, like where I kept my keys. Then the dreams started. Same one, every night. I'm floating above the earth, staring down as clouds swirl beneath me. The planet looks sick, covered in bruises of red and black. Fires burn across continents. And there's that same pulse, rippling outward, like a heartbeat made of heat and light. And in every dream, they're watching me. The tall ones, always at a distance, their eyes like twin obsidian moons, never speaking, just watching. One night, I woke up with blood on my pillow. My nose had bled in my sleep, something that hadn't happened to me since I was a kid. My ears rang for hours. I started keeping a notebook beside my bed. Every morning I'd write down what I remembered. Here's an exact entry, word for word, from the fourth night. Saw the dark city again. The towers are alive. The sky opened. The others were there. One of them put something inside me. I don't remember what. I don't remember how. I read that back now and it still gives me chills. I have no memory of writing it. And it's not the only time something like that happened. There were marks too. Tiny ones, barely noticeable at first. A small, circular scar behind my left ear. A perfectly symmetrical triangle on the inside of my thigh, like a faint burn that never healed. I even took pictures, thinking maybe I'd show someone eventually. But every time I tried, something stopped me. Fear. Doubt. Maybe a part of me didn't want to know the truth. About 10 days after the incident, I started hearing the static. It was like an old analog TV, buzzing faintly in the back of my skull. Not constant, just at certain times when I was alone or when things got too quiet. And it wasn't just noise. There were patterns in it. Pulses. Morse-like rhythms. One night, I swear to God, I heard a voice in the static say my name. I drove into town the next morning and bought every recording device I could afford. Audio recorders, night vision cameras, motion sensors. I set them all up around the cabin, pointing at the woods, the sky, the clearing. I even went back there during the day. But it was gone. The clearing looked normal. No burn marks, no strange footprints. Just pine needles and dirt. I stood there for almost 2 hours, waiting, watching. Nothing. Until I turned to leave. About 20 feet into the woods, I saw something shiny sticking out of the soil. Looked like metal. I dug it out with my hands. It was small, about the size of an AA battery. Smooth, silver, cold to the touch. No seams. No buttons. Just a single black dot at one end, like a lens. I brought it back to the cabin and put it on the table. That night, all the cameras stopped working. Not shut off, burned out. Memory cards fried. Batteries melted inside their cases. One of the motion sensors was completely shattered, like it had exploded from the inside. The silver object? It was gone. Just vanished. Not stolen. Not misplaced. Gone. Like it was never there. That's when I knew. They were still watching. Part 4, The Watchers. The next few weeks blurred together. I stopped answering my phone. I stopped checking the news. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Not just the tall grays anymore. Other shapes. Thin, twitchy shadows. Spindly arms. Insect-like eyes. Something about them felt wrong. Older. Like they'd been here long before we ever climbed down from the trees. I started sleeping during the day and staying up all night, watching the tree lean from my porch with a rifle on my lap. Not that I thought I could hurt them, but it made me feel a little less helpless. Sometimes I'd catch a flicker of movement between the trees, a shape darting just out of reach. Every time I raised the gun, it was gone. And the static, God, the static. It got louder. I'd hear it in the pipes, in the wind, in the silence. It would rise and fall like breathing, like something alive trying to whisper through the cracks in the world. Then, one night, there was a knock at the door. I nearly shot through the wood. Nobody knocks at your door at 3 a.m. in the middle of the Maine wilderness, especially when you haven't spoken to a human being in weeks. But it wasn't just a knock. It was rhythmic. 3 slow knocks. A pause. Then 2 more. I didn't open it at first. I just stood there, heart pounding, rifle shaking in my hands. I waited. Nothing. When I finally worked up the nerve to yank the door open, there was no one there. Just the trees, the dark, and the wind. I stepped outside, barefoot on the cold wood of the porch. No footprints. No sounds. I should have gone back inside. But something made me walk down the steps. Just a few feet. Then I saw them. Eyes. At least a dozen. Glowing faintly in the darkness. Low to the ground. Not like an animal's. Not like any reflection from a deer or a raccoon. These were red. Bioluminescent. Watching me from the brush. Completely still. I raised the rifle. Gone. The eyes vanished all at once, as if they'd blinked out of existence. When I looked back at the house, I saw something standing in the window. Not a shape, not fully. Just an impression. A tall, humanoid figure behind the glass, head tilted slightly, like it was studying me. I ran back inside, screaming like a man possessed, flipping on every light. Nothing was there, but the back door was unlocked. From then on, I started documenting everything. Times, dates, sounds, shadows. I even recorded myself sleeping. Most nights, nothing happened. Until October 14th. I played back the footage in the morning. Just static for the first 2 hours. Then movement. A shadow passes over the bed. No entry point. No door opening. Just a figure materializing next to me while I sleep. I watched as it leaned in close to my face. Then, it looked directly into the camera. And smiled. Not a human smile. It didn't even have lips. But the facial structure changed, stretched into something resembling a grin. And then the tape cut out. When I checked the camera, the lens was cracked. From the inside. I lost it after that. I packed a bag. Drove to town. Stayed at a motel for 2 nights. The dreams followed me. The nosebleeds started again. On the second night, I found a note slipped under my door. Typed. No name. No signature. Just one sentence. Part 5, The Signal. I went back to the cabin after 3 days. I didn't want to. Every part of me said leave, drive south, disappear, forget. But it felt like something was pulling me back. Not physically. Not even mentally. Energetically. Like part of me was still there, or maybe part of them was. When I stepped inside, the air was different. Thicker. Heavier. The smell had changed, like ozone and copper. Like the moment right before lightning strikes. And the lights were on. I hadn't left them on. The worst part? My voice recorder, the one I kept by the bed, had been moved. It wasn't on the nightstand anymore. It was on the kitchen table, blinking red. Still recording. I hit stop, hand shaking, and played it back. The first 2 hours were nothing. Silence. Then soft breathing. Then a voice. Not mine. The vessel must remember. The voice wasn't human. It was close to human, raspy, synthetic, like a machine imitating language. There was a low frequency in the background too, almost like a tone, humming behind the words. It made my head hurt to listen to it. I played it again. The vessel must remember. We are not time. We are not light. We are what binds the divide. You were chosen not because of what you are, but because of what you carry. I turned it off. Couldn't breathe. My skin felt cold, like my blood had stopped moving. What I carry. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the lights off, waiting for something to happen. Around 2:13 a.m. it did. A single light appeared outside the window. Not white, not blue, green, emerald and sharp, like it was cutting through the dark instead of lighting it up. Then came the hum again, louder than ever. Not from outside, from inside my head. Like my skull was vibrating. And then I blacked out. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember the light going away. I just woke up on the floor the next morning, face pressed to the hardwood. My ears were bleeding, but something had changed. I knew things, not memories, not information, patterns, equations, sounds. I couldn't explain it if I tried, but it was like someone had installed new software into my brain. I started sketching, writing symbols I'd never seen before, drawing shapes that didn't make sense, spirals with no beginning, geometries that bent into themselves. I filled page after page. Then came the signal. On October 21st at exactly 3 a.m., my old ham radio, which hadn't worked in years, came to life. No static, no warming up, just pure signal. A burst of sound. And then 3-9-5-1-2. Vector gate breached. Observer status. Pending. Then silence. I wrote it all down. Tracked the time. Cross-referenced solar activity. Nothing lined up. I checked space weather, military frequencies, meteorological interference. Nothing explained it. No records. No anomalies. Just that voice. Mechanical. Cold. Like a machine telling me a fact that didn't need belief, only acceptance. Vector gate breached. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it was about me.